I'm Charlie Sykes. Welcome to the Contrary podcast. Well, look at the headlines today. Donald Trump once again siding with Russia, betraying Ukraine. How many times have we been through this? Apparently, there is a new Christmas deadline, which gives Vladimir Putin more time to kill as many Ukrainians as possible. The Europeans are still reeling from that foreign policy paper that essentially threw them under the bus, under the boat. Donald Trump also handed China a massive gift when he approved the sale of these very, very powerful AI chips that a lot of people in the national security world thought, what the hell are you talking about? Meanwhile, the president is still struggling with affordability. He can't decide whether or not that's a real problem, whether it's a con job, and whether we should worry about it since he gives himself an A+++ grade on the economy. And while all of this is going on, Paramount has launched a hostile bid of Warner Brothers with Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, and his Saudi backers. So remember all those conservatives who were all upset about Al Jazeera? You know, this was the terror network. Surprisingly quiet now that Qatar apparently is part of the bid for the company that owns CNN. And meanwhile, we are all waiting on the U.S. Supreme Court to do God knows what. So buckle up. Hey, there's a lot going on, and our guest today, and this is a first-time appearance. It is good to see you. Rachel Bade, longtime veteran reporter for Politico, who has now joined the sunny uplands of Substack. So first of all, thanks for joining me, Rachel.
Thanks for having me on, Charlie. Any pointers for me on the Substack?
I do.
Live?
I have many. It is a hungry beast, and you have to feed it. If you have not yet seen it, if you have not yet subscribed, Rachel's newsletter is The Inner Circle with Rachel Bade, and the podcast is The Huddle. So I don't know where do you want to start here? Should we talk about the president going to Pennsylvania? With his message on affordability? Republicans are really sweating this, aren't they? I mean, they're looking at the poll numbers, they're realizing, and I don't know, Donald Trump seems to have some cognitive dissonance, right? It's either a con job or I'm going to fix it. And how do you fix it when you say that everything is perfect and this is the hottest economy in the world? So just give me your take on how the affordability issue is playing out and what you're hearing on the Hill.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans are freaking out about this. I mean, there is a sense that the midterms they're going to hinge on this issue in particular, that the party hasn't done enough to bring down prices, and that the messaging is kind of all over the place. One of the Substacks, the newsletters I sent last week, I led with this notion that the number one question amongst Republican operatives that week, over the weekend, was who is going to tell the president to stop calling affordability a hoax. Sure enough, his inner circle has sort of talked to him about this. They've showed him polling. And Republicans will say they understand what he means, right? Like he's saying that, prices went up more under Democrats and now they're trying to blame me. And this sort of takes time to sort of course correct the economy. Yeah. But it doesn't come up. It hasn't been coming out that way, Charlie, as you know. And and Democrats are seizing on that and will seize on that in the midterms. Look, I think what he did yesterday is a probably good first step. Most Republicans feel like it's a good first step because he did two things. Number one, he just went out there and he went through all of his accomplishments. I mean, it doesn't hurt to remind people over and over again that you have checked off most of your campaign promises. And to be sure, whether you like him or not, he absolutely has, whether it comes to immigration, whether it comes to crime. There's just a bunch of things that he has done.
He's given it to us good and hard. Yeah, no, he did what he said he was going to do.
Right. And those are not the issues that are going to sort of drive the midterms, but remind people what you're doing, number one. Number two, present the case of bringing out
same old, by the way.
Well, but here's the thing, Charlie. He's been abroad. He hasn't been talking like this.
Well,
we haven't seen Donald Trump do this in a really long time. I think the last campaign rally was on the campaign trail. And he needs to use the bully pulpit to remind people what he has done. He just does.
Yeah, but what is he going to do? See, this is the thing. So on affordability, as far as did he even talk about healthcare? I mean, you have
He
people in
talked about it a
Pennsylvania about to
little
be
bit.
hammered. Yeah. But what's he
Yeah,
going
he
to
talked
do?
a little bit. That's a really good question because there's been this split in the Republican Party. It's like the coalitions on this are really interested on healthcare. But you have like the MAGA base, some leaders in the MAGA movement who are joining with more moderate Republicans who are saying the president needs to lean in on this. He needs to extend the subsidies. We need to plug our nose and swallow. Yes, we all hate Obamacare, but like people cannot see their premiums go up at a time when affordability is the number one issue for Americans, according to the polls, right? So there's a lot of Republicans who want him to do something. And then you have the more traditional Republicans who are obviously the leaders in Congress.
Does he have
who
a
are
plan?
not wanting
Does he have
to do
a concept?
an extension.
Does he have a concept of a plan? I mean, I was looking at I was looking at I think it was a Substack newsletter from Connor Lamb, the former congressman, and he says, one of the big stories in Pennsylvania are the number of people that are just dropping out of Obamacare, going uninsured because they cannot afford. You have this sticker shock, and then you have Donald Trump, basically going through, playing his greatest hits, telling everybody how wonderful he is, but I'm guessing that people are going, all right, but what are you going to do? And as you're pointing out, it's kind of a Rubik's Cube, right? I mean, because here we are coming to the end of the year, and the Republicans don't seem to have gotten any kind of a coherent alternative, do they?
Yeah.
Or do they have a secret plan that we're going to find out about?
Well, 2 points on this. One is it's a messaging problem and it's also a substance problem, as you point out.
Yes.
I think the first thing Republicans have been trying to do with the president is try to get him on the right messaging that they think will resonate with people. And that is they want to see more of him saying, I feel your pain. Yes, certain things are getting better, but it's not there yet. And the problem is psychologically, he just can't admit that is true, right? It's hard for him to acknowledge that it's a real problem.
Right,
but that's just the messaging piece. Now you're talking about substance.
Yes.
Substance is a whole nother issue, right? I mean, I have talked to senior Republicans who have said to me, in the new year, we're going to pivot to affordability and we're going to be laser focused on it. And I'm like, okay, what does that look like?
Yeah, right.
And there's not an answer, right? They don't have an answer on healthcare. Yeah. They do not have an answer on, additional things to bring down prices. They're going to have to figure this out because it is the Achilles heel for them in the midterms right now.
So, when I mentioned cognitive dissonance, I'm having some flashbacks actually to the Biden years where, people were talking about, we need to have more messaging on inflation when the problem was it wasn't all just the messaging. It was the lived reality. And so there you have Donald Trump saying, I get an A plus plus plus. Everything is fine. We're the hottest economy. And then people go into the grocery store and they look at their bills. The reality is that, it's up like 25% since, 2020. It's not all his fault, but, it is a real problem. So you have the lived reality. And so I guess this is one of those moments. I know that Donald Trump believes in the bespoke reality, that he feels he can bend truth and make people believe anything he wants. So he's basically challenging people, listen to me, believe me, not what you're seeing on your grocery bill, not what you're seeing when you look at your bank account. And that didn't work for Joe Biden. And at least the polls would suggest it's not working for him right now because people are getting hit. And so that's and I know that's kind of what is the messaging on all this? The messaging is, hey, people look at the reality. They're not listening to what you're saying all the time. If you follow.
Yeah. I mean, people know what their bank accounts say. They know that when they're going to the grocery store, they're buying bacon because it's too expensive, or, that they don't go out to eat anymore because a dinner for, two is like $60, at a very most basic restaurant. Yeah. So
unless you have beer.
And this is what, there's a concern. The concern is that he not fall into this trap that former President Joe Biden was in, right? This notion of things are transient. Was that the word? Transient?
Yeah.
Transitory.
Yeah, I think so.
Transitory.
Yeah. Well, either one works.
Inflation is transitory. Just ignore it. It's going to go away, etc.
That was a terrible line.
Of course. Huge, terrible line.
Terrible.
But the message right now is also like, be patient. It's going to get better early next year.
That's the same thing, though.
They kind of sound similar. So, yeah, I mean, it's a tricky issue. And I think you're starting to see that too. And just one other thing, Charlie, sorry to interrupt you.
No.
you're seeing the frustration also start to boil over, right? I mean, Republicans coming out and taking shots at the speaker. I can
Yeah,
tell
I want to talk
you
about that.
that privately, there are Republicans like taking shots at the White House like hardcore right now. Like I was talking to someone just a couple days ago, and again, it's on background, it's not on the
Yeah,
record.
yeah,
But like the
always is.
fact that they're like the president he's not been using the bully pulpit, he's not like doing enough, like people are venting. And so you can start, like, just the point is like the meltdown is starting to happen here. So,
okay, I want to come back to that. One of the things about Trump's handling of this issue is it does feel, and you mentioned that he used to do these rallies, used to be out there, he used to have, I think, a pretty good. I've described it as a sort of a reptilian political instinct about what plays. It does feel like he has put himself in a bubble because he does sound tone deaf. And one of the reasons has been that he's kind of playing at president and he's hanging around with people who don't worry about their grocery bills. He seems much more interested in the foreign trips, the foreign stuff, dealing with, his fellow oligarchs and everything. And so the populist message really seems to be buried under a lot of the things that he's more interested in at the moment. Is that part of the concern? Because, the people who are sitting around the dinner table at Mar-a-Lago are not talking about the price of bacon or eggs, right? I mean, so he is in a world where the only time he hears about this issue is when someone hands him a paper with some poll numbers on it. So
it shows
is
people
that
are
part
hurting.
of the tone deafness? Yeah.
Perhaps. I think there is a recognition, even amongst people close to him, that all the focus on foreign travel and, solving, world peace, great. But like, if Americans are still hurting, you have a real problem here. And I mean, there was a time in recent months where you look at the president's agenda and it's always, so-and-so head of state, so-and-so prime minister coming in. It was like, those are the people that are coming in. And meanwhile, you have people who are still hurting. And so there was a discussion about this. I mean, the president said during his speech last night that Susie Wiles came to him and was like, it's time to campaign again. It's time to get out there and start, talking to the states.
Nope.
And yesterday was supposed to be the first of multiple stops that he's going to be making in the next few months to sort of, again, talk about what he's done, try to hit that better tone that they're trying to push him to hit
good
on
luck with
affordability. Good luck with that. But you're right. I mean, like, when you call groceries a quaint term, remember how he calls groceries a quaint term? I don't understand that. I'm like, groceries is a term I use multiple times a week. Trying to get groceries like with a toddler and working a million hours a day.
Yeah.
And then like the other things he says, like, be satisfied. And he said this last night too. Be satisfied with $2 instead of 30. The American people should be satisfied with having $2 instead of 30. Little girls,
pencils too.
Yeah, not exactly the greatest of messages.
So let's go back to this point that you're making, because this is really fascinating. This meltdown and panic that you're talking about here. Now, for the last 10 years, we've had these people off the record, being critical. What's different now? I mean, obviously you're seeing this open revolt from some Republicans, including the Republican women. Is it all driven by fear of the midterms? Is it reaction against the hubris of the White House? Just give me a sense of what the mood is when you talk about this meltdown. Even the off the record meltdown.
Yeah, I think, well, for each member that has gone public, I would say their concerns are sort of different. Like, everybody has their own parochial issues, but you cannot underscore how rare it is to see members of House Republican leadership taking shots at each other. Elise Stefanik from New York has been in leadership for a long time. She's a team player. Like, I've covered her for years. Like, her taking a shot at another Republican, let alone the Speaker of the House, shows you something's
brutal.
Very, very wrong. And she said, it wasn't at the president, by the way. It was at Johnson, right. And it was like, he wouldn't win again if he's Speaker. The president doesn't need him. He's a political novice, and it shows. Really sharp language. And look, I think there's a sense on Capitol Hill that they're hearing from their constituents They know they're not happy, and they feel like they can't do anything about it because they don't have power, or they feel like they don't have power. As one Republican campaign operative told me over the weekend, the sense is like this feeling of we're rudderless. That's the word he used, rudderless. They don't have a message. They want to pass more bills. They can sense their majority is slipping away. They're frustrated at Johnson for some of the decisions he's made, whether it's on the Epstein situation, banning stock trading for members, or keeping the House out for like 2 months during the shutdown, which a lot of people thought was just like a terrible optics thing. And so, it's definitely reached a new height. I mean, lawmakers are often unhappy, Charlie. You know this. Like there's a top-down approach.
They have a lot of time on their hands to be unhappy, right? I mean, they sit around and they can be unhappy, right?
Yes, but even now it's reached new levels. I mean,
is it because of his waffle brain and their spaghetti brains or anything? I mean, I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Waffle brain?
Mike Johnson's waffle brain. Because, men's brains are like waffles because they can compartmentalize. And Mrs. Johnson explained that women have spaghetti brains, which makes me wonder, some of the women are going, hey, we're not being treated with respect here. We're not really given the deference that we feel that we have earned. And it's like, wait, what did you people expect? First of all, you signed up for a movement headed by Donald Trump, and now Mike Johnson, who basically hasn't updated his views on gender since, 1678. Why would they be surprised now, except that they kind of hear the footsteps of the midterm elections? Is there anything else going on there that this has been building up for some time? And it's like, hey, we could actually now lose, so screw it.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Republican women on the Hill, even absent, the position the party is in right now, facing down this difficult midterm election, they've been sort of in decline in the past, few years. I mean, when I first started covering Congress, I feel like there were like half a dozen Republican women who were chairs. Now there's one. Often there's this sort of, they wouldn't call it a glass ceiling, but it certainly feels like a glass ceiling, and that, the highest position you can get to in the House is Republican conference chair, which is more of a messaging piece than anything else. But look, these Republican women, the interesting thing to me is like, even as they have sort of felt, some of them have felt this for a while, it's kind of counterproductive for them in their own party to talk about it in this way, right? Like if they're being perceived as saying, I'm treated differently because I'm a woman, or using the gender card in any way, it has a reverse effect, right? And they get a blowback from that, and so that has traditionally been the case. But that seems to have changed. Like frustrations have reached a point where, you have this New York Times story where all these Republican women are going on background and venting about Mike Johnson. And again, what you were just saying.
No.
That's pretty telling, though, isn't that?
Yeah, he's an easy shot.
For all the talk about the president losing Jews or, political capital, a lot of this stuff is still on background. And the people that are coming out and talking, they're not taking shots at the president. They're taking shots at the speaker, with the exception of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is who's on her own next level, of course.
Actually, you, as you mentioned, I mean, everybody's sort of on their own little planet here. We got to mention Elise Stefanik, who had been, very much a team player, also very much wanted to be UN ambassador, which is a high-profile cabinet position. She was prepared to, move on, become, Ambassador Stefanik, and Trump and Johnson cut her off at the knees. They decided that they wanted her in Congress instead. Now, obviously, she was extremely angry about that. And my guess is she didn't just become angry about that. She's been really, really angry and now venting against Johnson. But I mean, Trump also did that. I mean, Trump was the guy. He was the appointing agency. So
yes. Yeah, no, I would say Stefanik is definitely probably the most, I think I wrote this, screwed over lawmaker in Washington right now. Was in leadership. She stepped away from her leadership position, away from a very prized House Intelligence Committee position to take on the position of ambassador to the United Nations. Johnson complains to Trump that he can't lose people like her because the margin is so slim. So that nomination is revoked after she has already, all of her staff has left. She's like ready to move to New York, whatever. And then she has to go back on the Hill at a time when people
Really
like Mark
humiliating.
Green, who is alleged to have an extramarital relationship with a lobbyist, resigns and takes like a cushy job. Like, so yeah, she's pissed. The reason she's not taking, shots at the president is because she's thinking long term here. Number one, she's running for governor in New York, and like his endorsement, his support be very big for her, and the president does like her. But number two, that's going to be a difficult election for her after if she loses, which she probably will. It's going to be hard for her to win in New York, just realistically. She could have a position in the cabinet at some other point.
Sure.
So I would put my money on her in the cabinet in a couple of years. Like, so she's not going to take the shots at Trump.
I want to get to the pardons in just a moment, but I mean, going through this revolt, and again, everybody seems to have their own separate story. Marjorie Taylor Greene, lots and lots of issues. Clearly, the Epstein vote was a breaking point, and then you have people like, and it's why it's hard to generalize. And then you have people like Nancy Mace, who I don't know how to ask this question in a diplomatic way. Nancy Mace seems to be going through something. I mean, it's, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of strain, a lot of people's brains have been broken, there are a lot of people who have nervous breakdown. This seems like she is just losing her shit in public on a daily basis. I mean, I read the stories about her and I go, basically, I don't even want to talk about her except for right now, because clearly she's not well. I mean, what is going on? Do you know Nancy Mace? Do you know what's happening to her? What's going through?
I don't know her well, of course. I would say your concerns voiced there are shared by other Republicans privately, again, not publicly.
Yeah.
I think there is a sense that this is sort of an attention economy. And so even negative attention can be good or in some people's respects, but then, or this could be how she's thinking of things. But then there's some stuff that's percolating that, she did not necessarily want out there, like the whole confrontation with security at the airport and like yelling at them and screaming at them. And then Republicans from her state saying like, we don't treat people like this. I don't know. A lot of times with Mace, I feel like she's chasing the headline here and that she wants the headline. And it's not always a good thing for her. I mean,
what is the phrase? There's method to her madness. I think there's a little madness to her method. Okay, so this is probably. I'm sorry, go ahead.
One last thought on Mace. Like, here's a good example. Like that New York Times story about Republican women being frustrated. One of the biggest nuggets in there was this notion of she's so pissed off that she's going to meet with Marjorie Taylor Greene next week and she's thinking about resigning, right? Yeah. Like, I'm sure the reporter checked in with her on that. Like, I don't know for a fact, but like, you don't just stick something like that in there without like, talking to the person and reaching out for comment. And there was like no pushback from her for a while. And then all of a sudden she's hearing from people, if you resign, like, you're going to lose your gubernatorial bid. Like, that's it for you. Right. Forget running for governor ever. We're going to like disown you. And then she starts to come out and say, absolutely not. The media, like, the reporter taking this out of context, all this stuff. I don't know. Just, it seems like very short-sighted, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so this may be, a B-level story, a C-level story, but I find it absolutely fascinating. And you wrote about it earlier this week. Donald Trump has been throwing out these pardons, to basically any corrupt politician that he likes, or oligarch or crypto. The Washington Post had an, I thought, awfully interesting story about all of the drug dealers that he has pardoned. So if Donald Trump likes you, you get a get out of jail free card. If you're not MAGA adjacent, he's going to blow you out of the water. I don't know, but the one that was most interesting was the pardon of a Democratic member of Congress, Henry Cuellar, from a potential swing seat down in Texas. So let's talk about this because, first of all, he pardons Cuellar, gives him a complete, wipes away the investigation. And then Cuellar announces that he's running for re-election as a Democrat and not switching parties, not stepping down. Republicans freak out. And then Trump freaks out, attacking him, saying, no loyalty, next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy. So talk to me about what the hell is going on there? Because it was such a naked moment where it was clear, I am pardoning you as a political quid pro quo, and I expect you now to be politically loyal. And the Dems are jumping all over this. So this is it feels like a sideshow, but a very revealing sideshow.
Yeah, I certainly thought so when I was watching the traffic on this over the weekend. Basically, Democrats saying this was a Freudian slip for the president and that he couldn't help himself. He came out and attacked Cuellar, saying he was not loyal. And that just sort of like the follow-up question is clear, like, what did you expect? And clearly you expected something. Now, I don't know exactly what the president expected. I have asked people about this. And it's not clear if he expected Cuellar to just not run again, which would, make his seat, help Republicans pick up that seat in Texas, which is a seat they really very much want as they try to keep the majority. Or if he was hoping he would switch parties. Cuellar is a very centrist Democrat. In fact, he's kind of loathed by a lot of members of his own party because his tough stance on border. White House officials will not sort of admit, they won't, I have not heard anybody say, oh, we expected X, Y, and Z, but clearly the president did, because he's out there saying, like, by filing as a Democrat, he's showing a lack of loyalty. And naturally, the question becomes, like, well, number one, what did you expect? And if you did expect something, did you expect something from other pardons you've made? And I think that this issue could be, I'm really interested to see, like, if Democrats flip the House, like, what are the things they're going to investigate? This is one of them. Right? The pardon thing is one of them. The company piece, companies kissing ass is another one. It's just going to be, we're going to hear all about this and the behind the scenes of what was expected and what was promised
if they get the gavels, they're going to be very, very, very busy. But I thought that was interesting. And of course, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of redistricting because there's so much going on. But a lot of the assumption behind the Texas Republicans redrawing those lines was that they were going to continue to get impressive numbers of Latinos crossing over and voting for Republicans. That seems like a more of a questionable assumption, given what's been happening, the floor dropping out under Republicans and the president among young voters, among independent voters, and really very notably among Latino voters.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hispanic population in Texas, like, they're going to determine, like, everything next year, and so people want to know, like, are they were with the president before, like, but they're clearly peeling. No, I think when it comes to Texas, like, there are a lot of Republicans questioning this whole redistricting effort. Like, why did we do it? We spent so much capital on it. And could it blow back on us? Because yes, they could pick up these 5 additional seats, right? But they could also, like, make some of their members very vulnerable. And if you look at the numbers, when it comes to, like, special elections since the 2024 presidential election, the average swing is something like 13 points in favor of Democrats. If that holds, I haven't looked at the numbers, but if that holds in Texas, like, say goodbye to those 5 extra seats, right? All of a sudden you have to worry about Republicans. Yeah. So it's
So do you have any thoughts about Jasmine Crockett getting into the Democratic race for Senate and pushing out pushing out other candidates?
I find it so fascinating. Like, the left is so ascendant right now. I mean, once upon a time, national Democrats, like the leadership here in Washington, would call up someone, and say, we don't think you can win in a general, so sit down, because if you run in a primary, you're going to hurt our candidate. That didn't happen here. And there isn't anybody in Washington sort of, like, telling Democrats this. And that is because if they do, number one, progressives don't listen. But number two, they actually might use it to help fuel their campaign even more, their primary bid even more. And so, I mean, look, Crockett getting in, I think, is just going to jazz up the right, man. I mean, like, I think, like, we talk about, Democrats always talk about, when will Texas turn blue? When is that going to happen? Will it happen? It seems very, very unlikely if she's the nominee.
Yeah, and that was kind of the shock, because it looked like Republicans might serve up that seat. I mean, if Ken Paxton beats John Cornyn in the Republican primary, I mean, this guy, to say that he's got baggage is putting it mildly. I mean, he may be the one Republican who might have been knocked off had there been a more electable Democratic candidate. I mean, obviously, there's still a primary. A lot of things can happen. But it is, it feels like another marker in the sort of the end of political parties, the end of establishment. We talk about the Democratic establishment. There really is no Democratic establishment anymore, is there?
Yeah, I mean, they're there. They're just quiet.
Then what's the point of being an establishment?
I mean, I was on a 3-month non-compete after I left Politico, so I wasn't able to write during the Democratic, or during the shutdown, right, that we just had. But look at the shutdown. That would have never happened if, the base wasn't demanding it. You cannot convince me that Chuck Schumer actually thought that was a good idea, and not that he had to do it.
Well, what did they get out of it?
Yeah. So look, the liberal base is the progressive base. They've got so much power right now, and they're calling the shots. Very much, they're calling the shots.
Okay, so you mentioned something. The FTC is in the news this week. It looks like the Supreme Court might actually dramatically expand the president's power to fire members of what we used to know as independent federal agencies. Of course, this would be the end of independent federal agencies. So let me just talk a little bit about. We started talking about Donald Trump going to Pennsylvania, finally going back out on the trail. Are Republicans, or is this just baked in? Are Republicans a little bit concerned with the, sleepy Donald Trump? I mean, do people ever talk about the fact that, okay, so Donald Trump is falling asleep at cabinet meetings? This is a guy who, ran on sleepy Joe Biden. He keeps talking about sleepy Joe Biden. He knows this is an issue. He is obsessed about optics. And the guy is falling asleep at cabinet meetings. And when he's not falling asleep at cabinet meetings, the other day, what's the number of social media posts he put out? 140 in a couple of hours. I mean, do Republicans ever say that, we're not only mad at Mike Johnson, we're getting a little worried about Donald Trump? Do you pick up any vibe about that?
I'm not picking up any of that behind the scenes, none of it. In fact, I think when you ask Republicans about this, the reaction you often get is just anger that you're even asking a question like this.
Really?
And I think that there's some truth to it, because literally Biden wouldn't do how many press conferences did he do his whole presidency?
Yeah,
we never saw him.
Yeah,
right. He's got think about it. The guy, he's interacting with the press every day on a regular basis. They come into that Oval Office. He is, you might not see it on his daily schedule, but he stays up till 1 a.m. making calls to lawmakers. He's up at 5 a.m. making calls to his staff. The notion that what is happening with him is anywhere close to what the media fell down and failed to cover under the Biden administration is just not even comparable. And look, does it look bad that she's looks like he's nodding off in a cabinet meeting? For sure. But also, that he's up until 3 a.m. tweeting 150 times, like you said.
Yeah, but they're insane tweets. They're nuts. They are fucking out of their mind.
Well, those are two different issues, right?
I think they're
his stamina, and I would say Republicans are not concerned about that. And then the other one is, the content of these missives, and that's been the Trump story since he came down the escalator, right? Republicans not loving his tweets, not loving his social media. They're numb to it now. They're used to it. It's kind of okay, what did he tweet? Okay, great. Now I know I'm going to need to react to it. Yeah.
All right. So there's been some speculation this week about the number of Trump cabinet members who had their time in the barrel. There was the leak story about the Trump White House being very, very concerned about Kash Patel using planes and FBI SWAT teams to take care of his girlfriend and her girlfriends. Then, of course, you had the report about Kristi Noem might be on the bubble, and of course Pete Hegseth has had numerous issues, including not just the war crime issue, but his handling of Signalgate. My gut instinct is that these are the loyalists of the loyal Trumpians, and but let me get your take. Are any of those in real jeopardy? Patel, Noem, Hegseth, and if they are, who would go first?
I think the media coverage of this has been entirely overblown, if not completely incorrect. I'm actually writing a column about this right now.
Very interesting.
Look, I thrive on these types of stories. Like, I love the palace intrigue. I love to know who has the president's ear and who doesn't. And I would just say there's a big difference between like somebody, like the president being annoyed with one of his cabinet members and actually firing them. Right. And as you mentioned, these people are among the most loyal. He loves Kristi Noem. Like, he's not going to fire Kristi Noem. And so what is going on here? What is going on here is there are people in the administration, who are rivals, and they are, out to get one another, knives out, exactly. And so they might try to the belief amongst the inner circle is that people are trying to knife each other by making them look bad and hoping that, it gets the president's attention. And so, but like, it doesn't matter until the president himself, believes someone is, a vulnerability, or that he doesn't like what they're doing. He's not going to turn on them. These types of stories are not the things that are going to lead to a Cash firing or a Noem firing.
I think you're right there, because you look back on the people that Donald Trump fires, and generally, in order to get fired, you have to criticize Donald Trump, or you have to break with Donald Trump. As long as you are, carrying water for Donald Trump, doing the whole North Korean thing, he is not going to get rid of you. Kristi Noem is of course now, one of the faces of his signature immigration issue. Pete Hegseth, to back off on him. Look, I mean, he loves what's going on in the Caribbean right now, and Kash Patel is, the hammer of Trumpism. So, and I thought one of the reports that was out there was suggesting, and I really want to get your take on this, that Noem was going to be fired and potentially replaced by Glenn Youngkin, which struck me as completely implausible. But I wanted to get your take because you're much, much closer. I'm here in Wisconsin. What do you think of that story?
Youngkin.
Why would Youngkin want it, first of all? But
I don't know. Like, where is this stuff? I've been told that, like, the president, like, they'll raise these reports to him and ask him about it, and he just laughs. Like, he just laughs, and he says, "Where is this coming from?" So I don't know. I mean, Glenn Youngkin, like, I could see him. It's not like he's close with the president, but like, I don't know. Like, why would the president pick him over someone who's been more loyal to him for one of these positions? It doesn't make any sense.
Glenn Youngkin is also and again, I hope people don't misunderstand me, but he's a substantial person with a 100%. Career in the life outside. Almost all of you look around that cabinet table, and these are all creatures of Donald Trump. Why would Glenn Youngkin, first of all, want that job? And well, maybe he wants it, but Donald Trump wants somebody who is absolutely chemically loyal, someone who will never tell him no. And you can imagine a moment where Glenn Youngkin might say, no, I'm not going to do it. So I found that report to be implausible, but also a fundamental misunderstanding of this dynamic that you've described about how the cabinet. Okay, so in the next couple of days, you are churning stuff out. What are you looking at? What should we be paying attention to? I've obviously am glued on the U.S. Supreme Court, whether they are going to. And again, this is kind of a paradox. If they rule against Trump on the big tariff issue, it will be the most significant legal defeat he's suffered so far. On the other hand, it may bail him out of political problems by eliminating the tariffs that are contributing so much to the affordability problem. So, what are you watching over the next few days?
Yeah, if they strike the tariffs down, it's going to be total chaos here in Washington.
Absolutely.
The big thing I would say that I'm watching again is what are they going to do about the Obamacare subsidies? Like, I just, it just feeds into the problem they have about the affordability issue. And like Republicans, healthcare is such a difficult issue for them. It single-handedly cost them the 2018 midterm elections,
Yes.
right? They got to remember that. Even if they don't, then they're in for a rude awakening a year from now. So I'm going to be watching that. I am doing, like I had mentioned to you in my newsletter, the next, either the next or the one after, we'll have sort of a layout of all the different rumors we've heard about cabinet officials leaving and which ones are real. What is, maybe there's some real flavor in one of these stories, but it totally falls on something else. Like it's going to actually like go through what is true and what is not with a bit of a reality check. So I have been sort of zeroed in on that. And then of course I'm still watching like the Hill reaction to the double tap Venezuela boat strike. I know we've talked about a lot. This has been talked about a lot in the past week, but it's really rare that we see Republican chairs, Republican lawmakers tie the hands of the administration and say, until you give us certain information on this, we're going to cap your travel budget, which is what they're doing for Pete Hegseth. Wow. Like he can't get a fourth of his travel budget unless he gives this information. That's real oversight right there. And I mean, Republicans on the Hill have not done anything like this with President Trump in the White House. Like they have totally, gotten rid of or not used their Article 1 powers at all. This is their Article 1 power. So I'm going to be watching that to see like if they can actually get what they want or if they end up folding, which is kind of what I'm predicting they will do.
Fascinating. And of course, somewhere in the distant mists of the future, the Epstein files are still hanging out there. They're still there. I don't hold out a lot of hope that Pam Bondi is going to be releasing anything that is not absurdly redacted. But Rachel Bade, thank you so much for taking time out for a wide-ranging conversation. If you have not yet subscribed, the newsletter is The Inner Circle with Rachel Bade. You can find it on Substack. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie. Happy to come on.
And thank you all for listening to this episode of To the Contrary podcast. I'm Charlie Sykes. You know why we do this, why we will continue to do this for the duration, because it is now more important than ever to remind ourselves that we are not the crazy ones. Thank you.